Welcome to your PMA Pro membership, your gateway to continued professional product marketing development. Whether you're new to the industry or an experienced practitioner, we've covered all bases with our variety of specialist content, including on-demand presentations, templates, exclusive content, mentors, toolkits, learning paths, and more. So let's take a look at exactly what could be all yours as a pro member. Starting with exclusive articles, jam-packed with in-depth insights from experts at companies like Google, LinkedIn, HubSpot, and Drift. And we add new pieces to your dashboard every single week. Your template hub is packed with 50 plus vetted and tested templates and frameworks designed to streamline fundamental processes. Used by companies such as Slack, Microsoft, Twitter, and TikTok, rest assured, you and your team will be equipped with the best materials to enhance your practice. And better yet, we add new templates into your plan every month. Here at PMA, we have a busy event scheduled year-round. And as a pro member, you'll get access to every presentation on demand to enjoy whenever and wherever you please. Better yet, you won't have to pay a cent to attend our virtual festivals and summits. The discounts don't stop there either. As a pro member, you'll also get 10% off our suite of certification programs. After a structured learning experience, then our product marketing learning paths and toolkits are for you. Whether you've got a positioning overhaul on the horizon, want to upskill in sales enablement, or plan for next quarter's product launch, each toolkit and path features presentations, templates, and guides that'll help you hit the ground running and continue your professional development furthermore. Moving on to our peer councils. They're the perfect platform for live, virtual interaction, and the monthly gatherings allow you to connect with an intimate pod of product marketing leaders to strategize and collaborate. And last but not least is our mentor program. Whether you want to be a mentor, mentee, or both, you can accelerate your personal and professional growth by learning from product marketing heavyweights all over the world. So, with product marketing teams at globally recognized brands such as IBM, TikTok, Uber, and Amazon reaping the benefits of the stellar content on offer, why shouldn't you? Sign up for your PMM Pro membership and access a never-ending flow of tried, tested, and recommended tactics, learn from the leading lights in the industry, fast-track your professional development, and accelerate your career trajectory.
Hello everybody, and welcome back to Product Marketing Trailblazers. We've got another awesome live session for you now. I am joined by the wonderful Candice Carlson and Megan Sullivan from Google Cloud, and they're going to be talking about how you can establish a successful co-marketing partnership between product marketing and customer marketing. So welcome Candice and Megan, over to you.
Awesome, thanks Rose. So hi everyone, we are so excited to be here today, and thank you Rose for having us and inviting us. My name is Candice Carlson and I lead our retail industry team here at Google Cloud, which is part of our product marketing organization. And that basically means that I spend a ton of my time thinking about how our retail industry could leverage cloud capabilities, how we should be telling stories, and really working closely with Megan Sullivan, who I will pass it over to introduce herself as well.
Thanks, Candice. Thanks, Rose. Hey, everyone. Like Candice said, I am Megan Sullivan. I am on the customer programs team here at Google Cloud, and that is a part of our greater product marketing organization. And what the customer programs team does is we work with our customers on how they can tell their stories about how they're solving for their own customers' biggest challenges with Google Cloud products and services and solutions. So we partner really closely with the greater partner marketing organization to be able to do that and share our stories and our go-to-market strategies through the lens of our customers. So really what we want to do today is talk about the importance of the partnership between the customer programs organization, the customer reference manager, i.e. me, and the product marketing organization and industry marketers like Candace. And what we hope to do now is kind of dig into some of the things and the key themes that are really important when it comes to this partnership. So first, we're going to dig into kind of how we work at Google Cloud and, how do our teams intermingle and how do we come together as one core team to be able to build really awesome relationships with our customers, to be able to have seamless partnerships internally, and to be able to just work better together and stronger together. So like I said, at Google Cloud, we really believe that the best way to tell the Google Cloud story is through our customer's voice. We're super customer first in everything that we do. That includes throughout the entire Google Cloud organization and the greater Google organization, but also and especially in marketing. And I love the motto that I say this all the time. I feel it's in my LinkedIn profile, it's in my internal intranet page. So if we say it, if Google says it, it's marketing. And if our customers say it, it's social proof. And because of this way of thinking that we live by on the customer programs team and that Candace and her team live by and our greater product marketing organization live by, because of this, the partnership between my team and Candace's team, between the customer reference manager and the product marketer, is super important. We believe that the customer is the hero of the story, and Google Cloud is the enabler of the technology vision of the customer. And with that said, we really want to tell customer stories, really, really strong customer stories. We want to ensure that we are best representing the customer brand. What does it mean to the customer to participate in co-marketing? What's important to them? What are their goals and objectives? And then we'll insert our own go-to-market strategy and messaging into the greater customer stories. The customer reference manager, my team, we like to say that we're the customer empathy experts. We're the subject matter experts, the SMEs for the customer. And then the product marketing team, the industry marketing team, Candace's team, they're the product and industry SMEs. So we really rely on each other to successfully launch products, announce partnerships with customers, and build super fans of Google Cloud. And Candace and I and the PMM team and the CRMs respectively have always have aligned goals. We have, this really gives us and the customer the best possible experience. And it also creates a really good internal experience for our teams working together and tackling big projects, small projects, and everything in between. And over time, we've really created a partnership and a process that works well for us, but that can also scale for other internal teams across the PMM organization. We always begin with making sure that we're solving the needs of the industry and then solving the customer reference needs. And then of course, and most importantly, the needs of the customer and telling their story. And then we can hustle to include all the other internal stakeholders that need to be a part of the project if we want to successfully execute content or an event or a launch, like I said before. So yes, it's super important that we work together and that we have aligned goals and objectives from the start. And working in silos just doesn't work when it comes to the PMM CRM partnership. And I know the first thing that comes to mind when I think about working in silos is bad experience. Bad experience for me internally and Candace internally and her team, but also a bad experience for the customer. So we really want to avoid that. And what I want to do is kind of let Candace talk a little bit more about what comes to mind when we're thinking about overcoming silos and avoiding those scenarios where our goals and objectives aren't aligned and we're stuck in those siloed buckets.
Yeah, thanks, Meg. I think, as we were kind of talking about this session and what's important to share with the community overall, of course, we want to paint rainbows and unicorns and make it sound like everything's always great. But the truth of the matter is, especially at a company the size of Google, there are a lot of silos internally and then sometimes externally on the customer side as well, depending on who we're dealing with. So it probably, is fair to kind of say, what do we mean by silo? When we target a customer story, there's a lot of teams involved. It's us usually, which is great, and we're normally in sync, but we also have other teams within Google. So think of solutions teams, other product marketing teams, we have sales teams and account teams that are involved. And while everyone has the same intent, we'd like a customer story to be live, we may not all have the same goals or measures of success. I think, when I think about industry marketing and product marketing even, it could be that I'm interested in a customer telling a holistic transformation story about the industry, but they're using a certain product, and maybe the product marketer that I'm working with really wants that individual product and those technical nuances to be called out in the story. So we have to sync and communicate together to make sure that before we go to the customer, like in the brief, that we are showing up with the same intent and appearing like we work at the same company. Like that's always helpful, right? And I think, I would just add here that in my professional and personal experience, I think it's highly likely, like 99.9% likely, that everyone has good intentions. And so if we can just ground ourselves in that thought with how we're working internally, with how we're building partnerships, I think it can go a long way. And even though we have intense goals, even though, the pace at which we're working is very high, if we can just take a moment to be human and remember that we all have probably similar goals and needs, I think we can get things done faster. So how do we overcome these silos? Like Meg, I'd love for you to chime in, but I think really over communication, which can feel a little bit exhausting and almost a little bit basic, but ultimately we have to be talking constantly, and we need to sync and be aligned before we are in front of a customer. And I think, Meg, that's one thing that I appreciate. I hope you do too. We're IMing constantly. If there's something, if a customer sends us something and we need to respond, we sync together and we IM and chat and say, I think I'm going to say this. What do you think about that? And that just helps make sure, that we're aligned. I don't know, Meg, if you have any thoughts on that.
No, absolutely. I think that one thing that's really great, I'll single out our partnership first, right? Is just that we approach the customer aligned together. We think internally first, and then we approach the customer. I think this is a great lesson learned across any type of approach to external communication to a customer. In sales, when you have a sales pitch, you want to think internally first before you go to kind of try to sell a product or service to a customer. You can't just roll up without doing any research and, kind of doing any prep work in advance. And I think the same thing goes for marketing, right? I think we want to be able to show our best foot forward for the customer and not confuse them, right? And we also don't want to have to, especially in this digital world, the less meetings we have to have with the customer, the less emails back and forth about, oh wait, can you add this one more detail? It's not very clear to me. So if we sync internally first, not just between the two of us, but all of the other internal teams that are a part of the ask or the request to the customer, we're going to make it a good, like I said before, good experience for the customer. They're not confused. They're excited. They truly understand the request, but also all the internal teams, the product team, the industry team, maybe the solution team, they're all going to get their request ticked off and their messages told because the customer is fully on board and understands the request. So I say,
I would also say, Meg, like not to dance around the subject, because I think sometimes even myself and my team, like, we'll roll our eyes when we have to fill out the brief, like the dreaded brief. But to be honest, that document it aligns us, it makes sure we have the right stakeholders involved, and it just helps us feel a little more buttoned up internally when we are going in front of a customer. And, we've had projects, we'll actually share a little bit about one later, but we've had projects where it's like a brief to pitch them, a brief for this part, a brief for that. And it's like, oh boy, just do the paperwork though. Like, I feel like the due diligence and the discipline to like, just take the time to put the thought into what we're really asking of this customer can go a long way. And I think, to pivot kind of to our next topic of conversation, Meg, right? We talk a lot about what's in it for the customer. And I think I'd just love to kind of segue to you to chat a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that this is really important for the customer reference managers. We live and breathe this, right? This is why our organization exists. So we like to say that we understand this really well, but we like to over communicate this to the internal stakeholders. And I hope a little, some of us today learn a little bit more about what are the benefits for the customer. Because if we understand this, then we can understand how to communicate to them. We want to speak their language. So if we understand what's in it for them, what are the benefits, what are we going to build with them, it can just help us to build more super fans and super advocates that will tell our product stories, that will tell our industry stories. So I'd like to say that there are tangible and intangible results, right? Qualitative, quantitative. We all have qualitative metrics and quantitative metrics, and the same thing goes for benefits to the customer. But before we dive in, I really want to kind of lay out, what are the core tenets to customer advocacy, and what is the most important thing. I said this before, right? Customer first, to deliver an exceptional customer experience, right? Not just the sales organization or the PSO organization, the marketing organization must deliver an exceptional customer experience, because it has to be consistent across the board. And we, the marketing organization, product marketing and customer reference, we don't want to be responsible for creating a bad customer experience, right? Leave that to a different team, right? We want to have best in class experience with the customer. And also we want to make sure the customer voice is in everything that we do. We want to listen though to the voice of the customer, right? What is their feedback? How do they want to tell the story? What's important to them within the industry? And then create a narrative around that. And then finally, surprise and delight our advocates. Do awesome things with them. Build with them. Don't just make requests. So with those core tenets, we'll kind of go into, if you can meet all of those, these are some things that are going to be in it, or benefits for the customer. So, some of the things for the customer, the organization the customer is in, right? Your company will be positioned as an innovator, a courageous thought leader tackling, the biggest and key challenges that affect your business, that affect your end consumer and the industry at large, right? We want to showcase and celebrate the innovation and the business impact that the customer and the organization is having and delivering for their end consumer. And then we also really believe that customer marketing and co-marketing can help organizations attract top IT talent, right? If you are saying, hey, I'm working on the most innovative projects, maybe engineers, the top engineers out there will want to come and go work at your organization. We like to say, if they're not working at Google, we want them to be working at our customer organizations, working with Google Cloud to build amazing solutions for the end consumers of our customers. But also there's cool stuff in it for the individual champions that participate in product launches, that participate in industry summits that Candace and her team will be running. We think that they are able to meet and exchange ideas with Googler execs in events that we hold, but also cloud experts at other customer organizations. Once again, those individuals can be seen as thought leaders. And also we can help them to demonstrate the value that they're bringing to their organization through the technology choices, i.e. choosing Google Cloud, we like to say, that will bring that business impact. And hey, maybe that will lead to a promotion. Maybe that will lead to some recognition internally. And we love to see that. I love to hear that, hey, I participated in this webinar and I got so much recognition internally for the business impact that me and my team are having. And, it really just makes us feel like we're a part of the customer. We're a part of their team and they're a part of ours. And we really believe that there are some firm things that are in it for the customer. But I know, Candace, we're partners in crime and you often see some cool things as well. Are there other examples that kind of have stood out to you over the years that really also excite you and get you jazzed to do more co-marketing?
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the things that's been interesting telling customer stories here at Google Cloud specifically is that a lot of times, especially for customers in the retail industry, they're interested in telling our stories for us because they really want to attract engineering talent.
Right.
And if you think about it, right, top engineers are often going to tech companies, but there are retail companies, especially in this world where we have digital experiences that are becoming more and more prominent, like they need engineers to help them build and make those experiences better. So I think, I think it would be okay to share that companies like Macy's, Ulta, and Shopify, like they would be okay with me mentioning that the way we tell stories together is really helping them highlight and show the cool projects that their teams are working on, the amazing impact that working with Google Cloud and really just cloud in general, right, is helping their business achieve. And I don't know, that's really fun to see and really fun to hear. And, sometimes I've had times where like at the end of a session, a C-suite says, and by the way, we're hiring X number of engineers today.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, go ahead. Like, I think that's great to share. I think the other thing I'd just add just on this front, right, is that we really pride ourselves on being easy to work with. And it's really the best compliment with coming out of a session when somebody says, that was fun, or that, that was a good experience, like to your point. And I think that we can't dismiss the thought that if this feels hard and if this feels like, oh, I did it because I had to, we probably aren't going to extend that relationship with the customer, and we're probably not going to be able to continue to tell their stories. And so how do we just represent the best of working with Google, I think is what we try to do every day.
Yeah.
Go ahead. And Meg, I know, you're working cross-industry. So how about some other examples from
I was just going to chime in, and because you mentioned Ulta and Shopify, and just another really great example that comes to mind in another industry, because our team, Candace, has counterparts for each industry. So each industry has an industry marketing manager, customer reference managers. We kind of go cross-industry. So I also have, the great privilege to work with Twitter, who is, they have such an amazing engineering organization. And we've actually set up a system with them where they can sign up essentially and raise their hand and say, hey, I've got a topic. I'd love to do a blog post on it, or I'd love to do a short form, advocacy, quick video. They're the social media experts. They often help us on how we can amplify it. And they, we help them on hopefully bringing opportunities for their engineers to be thought leaders and participate in our blog. So that kind of partnership that we built over time, all of the things that we've discussed, right? Not operating in silos, like leading with those customer tenants, and all of those partnerships that we've built lead to these types of like super fan opportunities. And I think I'd love to hear a little bit more, or I'd love to speak a little bit more, about, we talked a little bit about what's in it for the customer. We're going to touch on what's in it for our marketing organization. But first, I'd love to touch on what's in it for the sales organization, right? We are so closely aligned with our sales organization, and we are able to build these super advocates that will also be sales references, right? That will also participate in all of this great content that helps us to enable our sellers to share these great customer examples so they can increase the footprint with their current customers or attract new customers or prospective customers, right? So we're building content, but we're also deploying our sales reference program where we're setting up peer-to-peer calls that are truly influencing the bottom line and influencing pipeline, right? I love some of these stats that I collected when we were kind of preparing for this session. References have 80 to 85% likelihood of influencing B2B purchase decisions. And only 18% of prospects trust salespeople during the sales process, while 92% trust what they hear from other customers. Now, sellers out there, that's not a knock on you. Don't worry. But I think that we all know that story. That's, that buyers, they're 90% of the way with their decision-making process before they even speak to a seller. And my team and Candace's team want to make sure that there's the customer voice in the product content, in the industry content, and in the customer case studies before they even have to speak to a potential buyer. So I really think that all of this value in the materials that we create just build on the proof points that our teams are working on building. So Candace, can you tell us a little bit about, how a great customer story turns into a proof points for our marketing collateral?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like this is the whole point of the whole topic, right?
Yeah.
And we've said it a few times now that if we say like marketing messaging, awesome, needs to be succinct, needs to tell the story. But unless we have a customer that's also willing to tell that story with us, it doesn't have, it can land a little flat and maybe not have as much impact. And I think what's been fun for us over the last few years, I think, is, with every big moment, with every launch that we're thinking about, we're also thinking about who's the customer or customers in a perfect world, if we're there, that can tell this story with us, that can share the problem that they were solving, and most importantly, right, the business impact that they saw because they worked with us. And, I think I'm not saying that this is anything new, right? I think we've always thought of this in product marketing, right? Like we need to have customers to tell our story, but I think making time and space to get the right customers, to give them time to tell the story, requires discipline on our side. And I'd love to tell you that, my 2022 plans are all baked and I know exactly what's going to happen. I don't yet, but Meg and I have already chatted about the big moments that are happening next year, the ideal customers, based on what we're seeing so far, that we would tell that story with, because we know that, we can't ask. There are some customers that we can ask for a quick turn with because we're close with, but for the most part, they need time. They need their own PR and comms and legal to be involved and to review and approve things. And so how do we really make space for all of this? And then I would just share too that, one thing that I think we're still learning to get the motion in place, but everyone loves the big brands and the big stories. And those are really important, but there are great business impact stories and great stories out there from some of our smaller customers and smaller brands. So really figuring out how do we, one, understand where those stories exist, whether that's alignment with our sales team, having a nice request process, right? There's all sorts of mechanics behind that, but making sure that we are giving space to some of the mid and smaller size companies to also tell their stories and not just getting hung up internally on only having big brands to highlight and share, I think is something that we constantly talk about and work towards as a team. Meg, what do you think here on this topic?
Yeah, so I think we're in complete alignment. I think we want to, and just to add to the last point, right? We want to tell Fortune 50 customer stories, and we also there are some amazing startup stories that are able to pinpoint on the business impact metrics that help tell our go-to-market strategy, right? At Google Cloud, we have purpose-built industry solutions, and Candace and I are trying to find ways for customers to tell those stories for us, right? So we want to make sure that we have, super engaging customers, sorry. We want to make sure that they're the right customer to tell the story. And I think that takes time, and that takes us relying on each other, for Candace to be the industry SME, industry expert, to say, this is the story we want to tell, and this is the type of customer. And then the customer reference manager to come in and help to get that customer on board and have a smooth process to make those asks and requests to tell the story successfully.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, well, Meg, I know we're getting close to time, but we did want to talk a little bit just about what makes a great story and share a few quick examples with you all. So maybe just to talk about really quickly back and forth, I think a great story is where we've found a passionate advocate. If that story is being told on stage, we've found a speaker who's compelling and is clearly interested and knowledgeable about the topic. That can be really hard for us to identify and understand. And I think, we are taking the time to understand performance of past stories. You mentioned quantitative and qualitative. For us, of course, we're looking at blog views and marketing metrics and media coverage, but also there's this qualitative. What was the feedback from the customers? Did we have customer inquiries happen with our sales teams because of a story that we told or a blog we published? And how are we, tracking and understanding that so that we can, tell a great story in the future? I think the ones that come to mind recently are ones that it was a clear problem, there was a clear solution, and we have numbers and metrics that we can share about business impact. And, I think that recipe we're still kind of perfecting. But for me, those are some of the elements that make the most sense.
Yeah, I totally agree. Just to kind of close up that point of what makes a great customer story. We all love business impact metrics. We all know a classic case study has problem, solution, results, right? But something that we always like to remember on the customer programs team, and then we partner up with the PMM team to make sure we're driving home, is, starting with the why. People don't, I love the quote, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And then the rest comes after. So we start with the why, the purpose, right? And then exactly. And then we move on to the how, the process, the actions, the products, the solutions. And then, of course, we move on to the what, the business impacts and the results, because we all want those amazing metrics to showcase the products that we're launching and the industry solutions that we're building are really driving and moving the needle for our customers. So yeah, let's, if we can, and I know we could squeeze it in with a little bit more time before Q&A, kind of go over some examples that we're really, really proud of that we worked on together.
Yeah, I think most recently, so we call this Cloud Confessions. It's a recent campaign that we launched in July. And Meg, for me, this was a really fun one for a couple of reasons. First, we got to work with fantastic brands. But second, we really had conversations with leaders about the fact that things are hard, and that's okay for us to talk about. Like, we don't have to be sugar-coated. We can tell an actual story about topics that are important to us: innovation, AI, store of the future, data, all that stuff. But we had a chance to sit down and say, cool, like, you were a leader during the pandemic. How was that? Was that hard? Was that easy? Talk to us about what you do differently. And so I think this one was really fun for me personally. And of course, the fact that people said yes to participate with us.
Yeah, exactly. I think what this one was a recipe of just all of the things we covered in the past, aligning beforehand, understanding our needs, the industry needs, the customer reference needs, the needs of Google Cloud, but also understanding the customer needs, and then building a really amazing campaign that was super cross-functional, right? Candace and I worked on it, but there's probably 10 other people at Google Cloud that contributed, maybe more. And then the customers being excited to be a part of it, and a medium that's interesting and dynamic, right? So I think that this was one of the favorites because all of the recipes that we just talked about in the previous slides kind of came into play here.
Yep, for sure. And just a few others, I think, to highlight, of course, the Ulta videos, near duty. I think videos in general are always fun and amazing to work on, time consuming, expensive. We haven't been able to do as many on sites, obviously, given the current situation, but I just feel like those can be so impactful and compelling. And then, of course, when we have moments in time, we just did some serious hustling for some Black Friday, Cyber Monday work with Shopify that was really great to see live and to see the response there. And I think that's a mix of technical and business impact that came to life there that was interesting, Megan. I think is a cool example for us to think about as we embark on future stories.
I think with both of these, I think we did, how can we deliver on, our promise to meet the goals and objectives of our customers? And I think Shopify has one of the best, if not one of the best engineering organizations in the world. And, we understand that and we want to amplify that. And, it was an amazing feat that they took on Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and we're just happy to be a part of the conversation. So how can we really partner up with the experts at Shopify to help them tell their story about how they're solving these huge challenges in e-commerce and for their merchants? And then the same thing for Ulta, right? This was an example of understanding, really huddling up with the PMMs for data analytics and BigQuery and having them be the SMEs and help me to understand how I can tell the story with the customer, and then looping you in, Candace, from the industry perspective. So it's this cross collaboration with product marketers, industry marketers, and technical experts to huddle internally, figure out what that why is, and then bring it to the customer because we know it's going to ring true for them. And then when it goes live, there's just great reception and everyone's excited, and then it's on to the next.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like we're going to get kicked off stage, Rose. Let us know. I think we've gone like a little over. Apologies. We can't see the live questions potentially, but if there are any questions and we have time, Rose, happy to take them. Just let us know.
Absolutely. Yeah. Happy to rattle through. I was actually just going to ask a question on how do you typically partner cross-functionally, but I think these two examples really covered that clearly. So I guess a little follow-up to that is, how do you operate in your organization? Do you have like a matrix organization format? And if so, do you experience any obstacles or friction in this space?
Yeah, so definitely. I mean, Meg and I roll up to separate teams that are part of product marketing, and then we have product marketing teams that are around product areas or certain topics as well, and we all roll up to a single product marketing leader. So ultimately, you'd hope everyone's always succinctly aligned and all of that, but of course, like it really takes time and effort to ensure that we're communicating clearly, that we're bringing in appropriate stakeholders for stories. And then outside of marketing, sales teams, account teams, et cetera, like we need to make sure that we're not, the last thing we want to do is compromise a relationship with a customer. And so there's a lot of like, I think these are a little higher touch than normal, right? Because we just want to make sure we're not risking anything by giving a marketing ask, basically, right?
Yeah, I think to add to that, it's just having kind of main points of contact by product area, industry area. And then of course, then there's a customer reference manager who's kind of like that liaison between the customer and the outside world and the internal teams. And, it's not a perfect science, but what we do know is that we want, I like the hashtag customers everywhere. So with that aligned goal, and also the desire to tell the stories really, really well, I think that helps us to push ourselves to work better together.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a lot of praise in the comments for your definition of what we say is marketing and what the customer says is social proof. And I think that resonates with so many. So really appreciate that little soundbite. Kind of on that, like how you're actually gathering that voice of customer. How do you prioritize customer stories versus sales or call references?
Yeah, I think that, so what we have different strategies year over year. We'll have, over the past 2 years, we've done a lot of prioritization of, how are the biggest brands in the world tackling challenges across industry, and then how is Google Cloud showing up to help to support them. So you'll see a lot of large, leading brands in industry like a Shopify, like an Ulta Beauty, like a Twitter that we've mentioned. And we've really prioritized telling the highest impact storytelling opportunities for some of the world's biggest brands. But like Candace mentioned before, at the same time, we also are prioritizing product. We have priority products, which have corresponding product marketing managers, and priority industry solutions, which have industry marketers like Candace. And at the same time that we're prioritizing the world's biggest logos, we're also prioritizing these products and solutions that we need references for. So we want to be able to, and definitely in 2022, prioritize these, focus areas within industry and focus areas within product. And yes, maybe the world's biggest brands will tell those stories, but also kind of deepening the bench with other, customers that can just truly tell an authentic story that maps to our focus areas. And then when it comes to sales references, we actually have a sales reference program dedicated to fielding sales reference requests for those salespeople that need references to help them accelerate the pipeline to close deals faster. So we actually have a separate team dedicated to churning those out as quickly as we can. And we do, of course, which other teams may have this, prioritize by deal size or by timeline and things like that. You always have to prioritize. You can't we often get wrapped up in like, oh, we want to do everything. But I think prioritizing, whether it's by industry, pillar or product, or by type of customer, you have to have some kind of prioritization or you're just going to get lost in the weeds. And Candace, you probably have some insight as well.
Yeah, I would say same there. I think the question was specifically around the sales reference component and how that kind of works alongside. So I think you explained that well. But yeah, for me, I think about we need transformation stories, relationships over time, telling the big old story, and then we need use case stories for specific products and solutions, and building out that library, making sure it's compelling, real, and with business impact metrics is really kind of how we try to slice and dice it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we're running over, but I'm going to squeeze in one last super quick question.
Absolutely.
How are you managing your customer references? Do you use a specific technology or is this something you kind of cater for in-house? How does that work?
Yes. So right now we have internally built, home-built tools, right? We're Google. We love to build all of our tools in-house. So that is what we're using right now. We have a few different, we have Google Form mechanisms, we have Google Sheets mechanisms, and then we have, internal dashboards that are built by Googlers and members of our greater organization.
Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much. That was a really insightful session. And yeah, like I said, there's a lot of positive feedback in the comments. So hopefully everybody took a lot from that.